Good morning. My name is Rob Thacker. I'm the music director here. We're going to begin by singing There Are Numerous Strings, number 197, as our gathering hymn. Today, the hymns are going to be a little bit different, only because we're going to be singing along with some recordings, because Stephen is out of town today, and this is what we decided to do. So, this version that you'll hear will hopefully very much help you appreciate this lovely tune, There Are Numerous Strings. Please rise and embody your spirit, and we'll sing 197. Numerous strings in your lute, let me add my own among them. Then when you smite your chords, my heart will break its silence, and my heart will be one with your song. There are numerous strings in your lute, let me add my own among them. Amidst your numberless stars, let me place my own little lamb. There are numerous strings in your lute, let me add my own among them. In the dance of your festival of lights, my heart will throb and my life will be one with your smile. There are numerous strings in your lute, let me add my own among them. Thank you.
Our opening words today are from Richard S. Gilbert. We bid you welcome, who come with weary spirits seeking rest, who come with troubles that are too much, with you, who come hurt and afraid. We bid you welcome, who come with hope in your heart, who come with anticipation in your step, who come proud and joyous. We bid you welcome, who are seekers of a new faith, who come to probe and explore, who come to learn. We bid you welcome, who enter this hall as a homecoming, who have found here room for your spirit, who find in this people a family. Whoever you are, whatever you are, whenever you are on your journey, we bid you welcome. I invite you to join me in reciting our chalice lighting, which is on the screen behind me. May this clear flame be a symbol that every heart can burn bright with joy, peace, and harmony. May this wisdom of ages speak to us through this flame and stay with us. Every one of us can be a blessing to the world. Welcome.
Good morning. We welcome you here today to join Reverend Jenn, Gracen, and Rob Thacker for our service on this beautiful August morning. My name is Gay Glasscott, and I will serve as worship associate. And before I go on with my welcome, I just want to say that what a pleasure and a joy it is to serve as worship associate. It is an awesome job. It's not even a job. I mean, it's just a wonderful experience. And the best part is working with these folks. And then right up there with the best part is looking out and seeing all of you. So I just wanted to say that. I haven't expressed this for a long time, and I've been doing this for a while. So I just love doing this. We know that you come to St. John's for many different reasons: to find community, to seek your spiritual and your personal truths, to question, to nourish your heart and your soul, to explore some new ideas, to find comfort, and perhaps to give some comfort as well. Unitarian Universalists affirm unconditional love as our foundation and our grounding for all of our actions in this world. We strive to be of service to our communities and advocate for change on all levels: local, state, national, and global. But the change, the real transformation, always must begin within ourselves. Thank you for choosing to spend your time with us this morning. I'd like to end my welcome with one of my favorite quotes from Wendell Berry. He said, "We have lived our lives by the assumption that what was good for us would be good for the world. We have been wrong. We must change our lives so that it will be possible to live by the contrary assumption, that what is good for the world will be good for all of us. And that requires that we must make the effort to know the world and to learn what is good for us." I'd like you to stand, if you are able, to please turn to page 1000 in your teal hymnal, "For Morning Has Come." Please join me in our affirmation. This is the mission of our faith, to teach the fragile art of hospitality, to revere both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to witness to all that we must hold the whole world in our hands.
I want to invite the children and really, as always, anyone who would like to come forward for a story for all ages. Our story today is about a ragdoll cat. Anybody ever had a ragdoll cat? No? You? Have you had a ragdoll cat? No? You've had a ragdoll cat? So for those of you who don't know, and those of you who do, ragdoll cats have this long, luxurious fur. Was that the case for your cat? Yeah. So Tippy was a ragdoll cat who lived in with a family of ragdoll cats with some humans. And most of Tippy's family was very luxurious. They liked to sleep most of the day and lounge around and just kind of hang limply in their humans' hands. Was that the case with yours? Yes. And eat dainty treats and just be very calm. Ragdoll cats are known to be calm, right? Well, Tippy wasn't. Tippy was awake most of the time, looking around, climbing up on furniture, knocking stuff down. Tippy's long, luxurious fur was wild and sticking out every which way. Tippy was nothing like his family. Anybody ever kind of felt like that? Or know someone who has, to give you some deniability? Yeah. And so Tippy kind of had trouble fitting in, but he knew he was loved by his family. And so one day, when all the other ragdoll cats were asleep, Tippy heard a sound. And it was loud and wild. And so Tippy went to check it out. And he climbed up on this wall, and he saw this band. And they had guitars and drums, and they were rocking. It was a rock and roll band. Have you ever heard a rock and roll band? Yeah, kind of. And at the end of this song, the guitarist smashed his guitar on the ground. And Tippy thought, these are my people. Because Tippy was rather fond of knocking things off shelves. So when they went back in their trailer, Tippy followed them. And he climbed up into the guitarist's lap and sneezed in his face. Exactly. And so the guitarist laughed, and he wiped his face off, and he said, this cat is rock and roll. And with that, Tippy joined the rock band, the Blind Cheetahs. And Tippy toured the world with them, and sent home postcards to his family, and just had a grand old time for years until Tippy was ready to retire. And when Tippy retired, he moved in with some other cats named Pumpkin and Gabrielle, and a couple of humans. And Tippy still liked to knock things off the shelves, of course. And the other cats loved that, because when Tippy would knock the food off the shelves, the other cats could feast. And sometimes Tippy would go home to visit his parents. And even though they didn't really understand Tippy at all, they still loved him and gave him affectionate purrs and nuzzles. And so that's what we want for all of you and all of you. Find your path and follow it. And know that you can return home and still be loved for who you are. The end. We're going to sing Children's Blessing, and the kids can return to the chapel or wherever you came from. Some of them appeared in the middle of the story.
We didn't get recording of this one, so. May your mind be open to new learning. May your lips bring truth into the world. May your heart know love and your hands do the work of justice as you go your way in peace. We'll end. Thank you.
That's what I love about working with Rob. He's very flexible. Every week in our service, we make time to ground ourselves in what we value. We celebrate and honor our community by sharing the joys and concerns that have come up in our lives, sometimes silently by placing a stone in the sand, and sometimes out loud, which you can do by writing on the paper, or if you are joining us online today, by entering it in chat, and it will be shared with us. We will now begin our ritual of stones for joys and concerns. We place two final stones to represent all of those who are not with us today, and we light the candle to represent all that has been shared and will be shared. We'll start with the online from Carol Fensel. A joy that after a fall at home and 2 days in the hospital, Carol Fensel is home with only a broken bone in her forearm. Glad you're home and recovering well. We have a joy of giving thanks for this beautiful, cool summer day together. And so another for joy in being back. And a joy for family time. I invite you into the spirit of prayer meditation with these words by Teresa Novak. Come into this place. There are healing waters here, and hands with soothing balm to ease your troubled days. Bring your wounds and aching hearts, your scars too numb to feel, your questions and complaints. All are welcome here. Rest a while. Let the warmth of this community surround you, hold you, heal you. When you feel a bit stronger, just a bit, notice those who need you too. They are here. They are everywhere. Weep with them. Smile with them. Work with them. Laugh along the way. Pass the cup. Drink the holy fire. Take it with you into the world. We are saved, and we save each other. Again, again, and yet again. I invite you into a couple of moments of silence. The offering that we take each Sunday isn't just a stale habit. It's an opportunity to recommit to this place and to this people. Our offering is an affirmation, a yes. When we give, we say yes to something we value. With our gifts freely given, may we say yes to the values of our faith. May our offering help us practice Unitarian Universalism within and beyond our congregation as tools to empower our mission. St. John's is committed to creating a safe and caring community, working for peace and social justice, and celebrating beliefs that respect freedom of thought. The offering will be gratefully received.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you. Our reading today is called Belonging, and it's by Karen Herring. So much of our yearning begins under the open sky. A young girl sits in the fields of her own longing. One more thin blade of grass connecting earth and sky, swaying with desire. To be of use, the wind whispers in her ear. You who have done this know the breeze moving through these fields can blow for a very long time. Now, years later, ripened by life and love and loss, she grows toward what calls her. She leans into her longing as a plant tilts toward the light that beckons it skyward, the light that gives strength, bestows beauty, unfurls the plant's leaves like green banners waving. What would the world be like if we all turned our faces toward the light in this way? If we let ourselves belong to our longings, opened our ears to the voice that says, you, I want you, I need you. Like this, the sun charms the shoot up from the soil and coaxes the bud to release its tight fist. Like this, the wind lifts the seed from the open bloom and the soil calls the seed home again. Time rounds the bend. Older, wiser now, she replies. A green, supple blade bowing over and over again, offering her tasseled seeds to the wind, belonging to those same swaying fields.
We'll now sing hymn 212, We Are Dancing Sarah's Circle. Please rise, embody your spirit.
Hear the last three lines. I knew that wasn't the end. All right, you ready? I'm not going to read the whole thing, but bear with me here, because this is important. Time rounds the bend. Older, wiser now, she replies. A green, supple blade bowing over and over again, offering her tasseled seeds to the wind, belonging to those same swaying fields that years ago called out to that young girl yearning under the wide open sky. Sorry.
Now we'll sing hymn 212. Please rise, embody your spirit.
We are dancing Sarah's circle. We are dancing Sarah's
Mary Safford's yearning began under an open sky. As a girl, she would struggle to climb up on top of a tree stump at her home in Hamilton, Illinois, and she would preach to her family. Little did she or her family know how much this would shape her life. Mary was born in late 1851, when the rules prescribed for women were clear and the chains around what they could do and be were tight. Mary's parents didn't discourage her. Her father was progressive, and her mother was confident Mary would grow up and do what women were supposed to do at church, work in the kitchen, and pray in the pews, as was expected of a true Christian woman at the time. Yet Mary was destined to challenge gender norms in her lifetime. When she was told what she could not be, she did it anyway. Although she is known as one of the Unitarian trailblazers herself, Mary also benefited from other women who defied expectations. In her early years, Mary likely heard stories of the first female ministers to be ordained. First, there was Antoinette Brown, ordained by the Congregationalists, now the United Church of Christ. She was the first woman ordained by a church when Mary was 2 years old. 10 years later, the Universalists ordained the first woman as a denomination. You will hear both sides say, we did it first. The UCC's, an individual church, did it. We did it as a denomination. That's the distinction. Olympia Brown was our first. When Mary was 20, 8 years after the Universalists, the Unitarians ordained Celia Burley. When Mary was expected to follow a certain path by society, these women helped her see there was another way. Even while Mary's mother was trying to teach her daughter to be proper, her father was introducing his children to radical and often disruptive ideas. In her book, Prophetic Sisterhood, Cynthia Grant Tucker says, Stephen Safford, a farmer and teacher, had become so outspoken in his defense of radical notions like biblical fallibility, abolition, and the new Darwinian theory, that he was repeatedly called before his church to justify them. After his death, when Mary was only 9, she discovered his library and the people who had stirred him and most shaped his heresies. When Mary's father died, her mother was left running the family's farm while also being in charge of their children. The American Civil War was months away from starting. And so in the midst of all of this, despite her mother wanting her to grow up to be a traditional woman, Mary saw her mother as strong, capable, able to manage the farm and the family finances and the children. So during her childhood, Mary made friends with a neighbor girl, Eleanor Gordon. Eleanor's family lived on a nearby farm, but their family struggled financially. The two girls would spend a great deal of time under an apple tree talking about their lives. When they were about 17 years old, both Mary and Eleanor left for college at Iowa State. At the end of the year, both young women returned home. Mary because her mother and sister were ill, Eleanor because her family couldn't pay for an additional year. Determined to get a college education anyway, the young women exposed themselves to many writings and thinkers of the time, including George Eliot's book, Middlemarch. Anyone read that? The main character marries, as a proper woman must, and she is hoping to be included in her husband's life and work, but gets shut out instead. Mary and Eleanor decide they didn't have to sacrifice any of their ambition to their husbands. And in 1871, when they were around 20, they pledged they would spend their lives together, serving the world as a team and never marrying a man. This was a huge decision in 1871. Even a couple of years before, when Louisa May Alcott wrote the book Little Woman, she seemed unable to make her main character, Jo, the literary spinster she wanted her to be. For those of you who may not remember that story, here's a brief summary. Little Women is about a family of 5 girls. The main character is Jo, who is much like the author, Louisa May Alcott, and she spends her life writing and making money to support her family. She's also something of a tomboy and tends to reject the advances of those around her. Louisa wanted to leave Jo unmarried, like Louisa herself. But so many people insisted that she marry Jo off, specifically to a childhood friend, Lori. But Louisa May said, "I didn't dare refuse, but out of perversity, went ahead and made a funny match for her." So Louisa married Jo off to someone who caused any number of complaints. And Louisa, like Mary, Eleanor, and many other women, was struggling to carve a path that didn't exist exactly at the time, where women could live and support themselves without having to look at getting married as an expectation and a survival strategy. In an 1888 interview, Alcott said, "I'm more than half persuaded that I am a man's soul put by some freak of nature into a woman's body, because I have fallen in love in my life with so many pretty girls and never once the least bit with a man." Openly loving a woman wasn't even something many people had language for, and it certainly could not have appeared in Alcott's book. The closest she was able to get was that ridiculous, unsuitable match for her feisty, independent main character. Given the timing of its publication, it seems likely Mary and Eleanor encountered Alcott's book, and they could have drawn their own conclusions from it as well. Their decision not to marry, but to spend their lives together, serving the world, was brave in a time when marriage was often one of the few economic decisions a woman had to make. By their early 20s, Eleanor had been teaching for several years and become an assistant principal, and Mary discerned a call to be a Unitarian minister, right about the same time the Unitarians ordained their first woman minister. Together, the young women started the Hawthorne Library Society. They hosted discussions, tried out ideas in writing and in speaking, and invited speakers to talk to mixed gender, mixed sex groups about all manner of things. A favorite speaker of theirs was Oscar Clute, a Unitarian minister who often spoke of evolution. Over the course of several visits, he encouraged the women to start their own church. By the spring of 1879, when St. John's was about 65 years old and not yet Unitarian or Universalist, Mary and Eleanor were planning services for a church in their hometown of Hamilton, Illinois. By the end of their first year, they were drawing between 150 and 200 people. Right? You want to find some notes, don't you? I know I do. In addition to church services, there were social gatherings, evening lectures, and even plays out at the church. They came to the attention of Jenkin Lloyd-Jones, who is the Unitarians' Western Secretary, a kind of missionary position for that area of the country, and was a strong supporter of female ministers. He knew that male ministers who were paid decently well along the East Coast were not easily convinced to move to what was considered the border of civilization. So this provided an excellent opportunity for women ministers. Jenkin Lloyd-Jones recruited Mary and Eleanor to go to Humboldt, Illinois, to a congregation that had been unable to keep a minister. It was also a place that was looking for a principal for their school, so it was perfect for the two women. Eleanor wrote in her diary, "We had decided 4 years before to work together, and now the opportunity had come for establishing our home." In June of 1880, 27 years after the first female was ordained, Mary's ordination was a simple service in Humboldt. At her ordination, Cordelia Cole gave the charge to Mary. She spoke about the idea that women had special attributes, not that they were just not men. She was proud of the differences and told Mary the differences between her and men would account for her success. She cautioned her sister minister not to diminish herself by accepting the male way of doing things as a model for success, not to suppress or conceal her unique capabilities out of some sense of female weakness or insufficiency. She encouraged Safford to live into who she was. Cole told Safford that by answering the call to ministry, she proved that it wasn't limited to a particular sex or race. And Cordelia Cole also reminded her not to neglect reaching new offspring, especially daughters, to carry the ministry forward. I want to take a moment to explain some of how that ended up looking. We find that churches in the Midwest tend to be more family-oriented, but like even the buildings see the impact of the Iowa Sisterhood's influence, the initial leadership by women. We find more versatile buildings that like often you can take the chairs out so you can do different things. The churches themselves look different in the Midwest than they do in the East Coast. I'd be happy to talk to folks about that more later, but we see very much a difference with the women minister-led influence in the Midwest versus what churches look like in the East Coast and even on the West Coast. It's fascinating. While in Humboldt, Safford and Gordon lived into the idea that Cole offered them. They took in 4 teenage girls who completed apprenticeships with them. One of the girls, Mary Colson, said she and the others were called from birth to be ministers. Safford believed that true religion must first of all be free religion, free from irrational dogma that discouraged personal growth. She held that the human soul would evolve, not in solitude, but through community. People would make their common tasks divine by doing them in the spirit of love and helpfulness. Throughout her many years of ministry, she worked to help her congregations be the kind of religious communities in which individuals would evolve together in the spirit of love and helpfulness. Mary Safford, and later Eleanor Gordon as well, she was ordained herself several years after Safford, formed the Iowa Sisterhood, which included female ministers from several states in the Midwest. Together, the women supported one another and their congregations by sharing pulpits and setting up congregations that were oriented toward a family structure not found on the East Coast. That's what I mentioned earlier. Mary and Eleanor grew up in a United States that had roles rigidly defined for women. Yet if we look for it, we find the people who helped forge the path forward, who helped break the chains that we put on our lives. That has been the goal of feminists, to free women from the chains that bind them. Expanding the range of professions available to women allowed them to make different choices in their lives, including the choice not to get married or to get married for love rather than to protect themselves financially. These Unitarian pioneers lived lives of integrity. They showed others how to live their own lives with a greater sense of integrity. When we bind women into particular roles, restrict their rights to control their decisions and way of being, when children are told that to be a girl means you must like pink or wear dresses or be sweet, or we are creating chains that bind all children. The chains of gender that our society decides are placed on children because of their sex. We see it in our media and on TV, where to be a woman is used as an insult, or when men tell one another not to be like a part of the female body. Mary Safford suffered to break those chains, and she and Eleanor were chronically underpaid, and Mary worked to the point of exhaustion enough to damage her health. This is the damage we do when we force people to fight through barriers just to be who they are. When we put chains on men, we tell them they can't be sensitive or have long hair, or wear dresses, or like the color pink. And we end up surprised when they are kindergarten teachers or nurses, and the list goes on. Even when one group has privilege, the oppression of another group ends up harming the oppressor. People who live lives of integrity, such as Mary Safford and Eleanor Gordon, teach us more about what is possible when we break the chains that bind us in our lives. What chains are in our lives today? What do we tell people about who they are or who they must be because they were born whatever? Whether sex or race, whatever it is. Is there anything that stops us from living lives of integrity? Is there anything that stops us from listening to our calling and being the people we were meant to be? My beloved spiritual companions, Reverend Mary Safford, Reverend Eleanor Gordon, Reverend Antoinette Brown, and Reverend Olympia Brown led the way into opening ministry to women. They and so many more have struggled to break the chains with which we bind and restrict each other. May we follow their example by freeing ourselves and one another from all of that which keeps us from being ourselves and pursuing our calls. May we forge our own path and support one another on the journey. Blessed be. Amen.
Just a few announcements before our final hymn. Meditation returns to Sunday mornings, and information is in your bulletin. Donations are still needed and always needed for Angel's Arms, and all the information is in the bulletin. Coffee hour volunteers are always needed. Sign-up sheets are for August and September are available. Laughs annual August dinner will be held, obviously, in August. So that information is in your bulletin. The flowers today were donated by Connie Mitz. We thank her. And thank you to our guest accompanist, Natalie Smith. Thank you very much. And finally, I'd like to invite Wanda Crawford up. She has an announcement to give.
Good morning. This announcement is about Found House. Next Sunday after church, there will be a light lunch, probably pizza. And so everyone's invited to that, to stay for a little bit. And then after that, we will have a time of reflection led by Reverend Jenn to help us kind of process and talk through our experiences last month in hosting the Found House families here. We did this last fall after we hosted, and I think it was a really worthwhile event. I think people really enjoyed it, got a lot out of it, and had that sense of connection and community as we learn more deeply about what it means to be a hospitable place. So that's next Sunday, and there'll be more details in the e-news. I just want to mention that our kitchen refrigerator is not working, so the meal will be a carry-in thing, and folks will be invited to bring cookies or fruit or vegetables to snack on, just things like that aren't going to require refrigeration. More details in the e-news. Yeah, everybody can stay for lunch, and we just want to make sure that people who are going to stay for the reflection get to eat first because they're going to be here longer, but everyone is welcome to stay for the reflection event.
Also, for those of you that don't come to choir, I'd like you to consider coming to choir. We're going to start rehearsals again on August 29th. That's Thursday, because that's when we have rehearsals. And if you can't make it that time, it doesn't mean you still can't come another Sunday. We'd love to have you come, test the waters, and hope that you stay, because I've got, I think, some great music planned for the fall. So please rise and body your spirit as we sing our closing hymn, Woyaya, 1020.
knows where we are going, but we know within. And we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah, yeah. 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 We are going. Heaven knows where we are going, but we know within. And we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah, yeah. 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 Oh yeah, yeah.
Go now in peace. Deeply regard each other, truly listen to each other, speak what each must speak. Be ready in every moment to disarm your own heart. Rejoice in this love you have begun. Go in peace, go in love. Amen.